Welcome to episode 15 of the Matlock podcast. Game Face.
In this week's episode, the Slamm'd case races towards a conclusion as the jury hears from Lydia Reed and the drink company's marketing president. Meanwhile, an observation from Shay leads to 2 mammoth document searches and Olympia loses patience with Madeline. But can she prove the Slamm'd parties were designed to hook kids? Or will the costs of the case lead her bosses to pull the plug?
Seriously? We are up against the clock and you stop your work to get your ass groped by Beelzebub?
Relax. I did it so I can see what Olympia was up against.
Good morning, Ian. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Was that Beelzebub you were just spending time with there?
No, I wish it was.
Just a regular ass groping.
The things I have to put up with.
It shouldn't be possible in the workplace.
But it's frowned upon. It's looked down upon.
Very much so. We have almost caught up with the release schedule of this show in our recording.
We have.
Keeping things on a fine line.
We also have some news.
Errors and omissions.
Omissions, certainly. So, as I requested of you done your job well done, Ian.
Yep.
Pat on the back. You reached out to both Kat Coiro and Jenny Snyder-Urman and, graciously, both responded.
They did.
What did we ask them?
We asked them about Tucker, the lead plaintiff from last week's episode, because he's not credited at the end of the episode and he's not listed on IMDb.
Well, so say you.
Well, so say they.
They're wrong.
Well, they did say it, though.
So I've done a little bit of digging.
You have?
Yes, we were told his name is Leonard Ray Harmon. He is a disabled actor. He had an accident on a motorcycle where he was hit by a truck, aged 30. He does, in fact, have an IMDb profile, because when I searched for his name, that came up, but he's not put his Matlock credit on it.
Right, and he's credited, we were told, at the start of the episode as a guest star, but not at the end.
Yeah, but obviously it doesn't tell you who the actor is playing, the character name, so we didn't pick up on that. So, Leonard, get your credit on Matlock. His IMDb at the moment consists of Delilah, Black Boots and Good Trouble, so not an extensive career. He was born and raised in South Central LA, and since his accident he competes in a lot of wheelchair bodybuilding, and I think he's a personal trainer as well.
Well, I thought he did a good job, especially if he's in his 30s and he's playing a college student there.
Yeah, well that's what they do, isn't it, in these shows?
Always have.
Yeah, some guy that looks like your dad.
Yeah. Yes. If you want to talk to us about Leonard or the episode or anything else, you can get hold of us on social media at Colombo Podcast on all the major social networks. You can find show notes for each episode on our website, colombopodcast.com. And if you want to hear next week's show 1 week early, i.e. now, head over to our YouTube channel, Colombo Podcast Productions, where it is already available there for you.
We have a lot to get through. Are you ready?
I am.
Let's crack on.
In the recap this week, we are reminded about the hidden document at Jacobson Moor, Bitsy's arrival in the Kingston mansion, and Madeline's use of Bitsy's characteristics. Shay's attempt to clear the air with Olympia, Senior's concerns about the costs to Jacobson Moor of the Slamm'd case, Violet's death, Madeline's conversation with Lydia, and Bitsy finding out what Madeline and the rest of them have been up to.
Did you like the beginning this week? Did you like the new camera technique?
I'm sure it's very clever, but it made me feel a bit sick.
It was an upside down camera which then revolved, and I think it was a very good way of demonstrating how Madeline's world has been turned upside down and she doesn't know what's going on and where she is necessarily.
It made me think a little bit of Inception.
Yeah.
So we see her waking up, and as you say, the camera spins round as she rises. She's got a, would you say, determined look?
I don't know. I mean, I think she's upset, she's angry, she's disappointed.
She's got a lot happening.
Yeah, this apparent revelation that Olympia is the guilty party. Down in the kitchen, this near depression is known to Edwin and Bitsy, who thinks that custard is the thing to bring her out of this funk.
It's never failed to make somebody feel better, but although it does appear to be the case that Madeline's grieving the loss of her friendship with Olympia, and they both agree to support her, when she shows up, she appears to be in a more upbeat mood than anticipated.
She's got her game face on. I think she's sort of pulled herself together.
There you go, episode title.
As it were. Edwin himself thinks that it will simply take time for this distrust, this sadness to dissipate. And Bitsy knows all about this, or certainly all about sadness, when she reminds him of her marriage to Bert.
Indeed. Yeah. Today, Madeline tells them, is the day they're going to reach out to the Redditor. How have they taken a year to do this? However long they've taken to do this?
I don't know. Do you think I'll be right? I made a prediction last week.
You did. I think you will be right.
Okay. What's the Redditor's name?
Read 'em and weep 31. That'll be our age, probably.
A concept that Reddit that is that Edwin has to explain to Bitsy. She asks, in fact, Bitsy now contradicts you, Ian, if you've not been paying attention. She asks why or if they've tried to speak to this person in the past.
She doesn't contradict me. She's asking the same question that I asked.
Okay, well, the answer contradicts you.
Yeah, well, yes.
Edwin
they
tells
have done.
they tried it 2 years ago, but the person told them basically to try and figure it out for themselves. That's not entirely helpful.
It's a very weird thing to do. It's like, here's all the information. You need this information. Oh, I'm not telling you anymore.
Yeah, if you're a leaker, I mean, it's all very well not coming forward and hiding your identity, but you give them as much information as you've got, I'd have thought.
You would have thought
if you want
so.
to, certainly if you want to expose something, why play games?
One thing that they aren't sure about is whether this whistleblower still works for Jacobson Moore. But now that they think they've figured out it was Olympia who did it, they know where she did it, they know when she did it, and though they don't know what the document is, they think now is the time to reach back out.
Yeah, they're hopeful that the Redditor will tell them more.
Madeline heads through to her office and Bitsy urges Edwin to get her to speak about her feelings.
Yeah, she knows what's going on. I really, really like Bitsy. She understands the emotions of people.
She's emotionally intelligent and
yeah.
understands her sister in particular.
So in the war room, as Madeline takes down the pictures of the other suspects, she responds to a worried Edwin that she can cope with Olympia's new status as the person of interest or the suspect. She says that the person that she thought she was friends with is not that person.
That makes no sense. She's exactly the same person. Anyway.
But she does admit, mind you, it's just like her. So, she is not who Olympia thinks she is.
That's true. She says that she's glad to have clarity and it is time to finish this.
As the title is displayed on screen. So it's a bit awkward that Jacobson...
I thought a very strange way that Olympia approaches Madeline here.
She's quite peppy. She's very positive. She's quite happy with things. She hugs her and informs her that the judge ruled in their favour and they can continue this class action without a named plaintiff, obviously after Tucker took his cash.
And left.
And Madeline has to force a smile at this.
You can see that
point.
she's finding it a bit harder now.
Yeah, and I think there's a double fist pump from her.
Yeah.
It's not entirely convincing.
They join the rest of the team in the meeting room where Olympia says that winning is the only thing that matters, causing Madeline to react.
Sarah wants to choose another plaintiff, but Elijah tells her that they don't have any time and they've already spent too much on this case. Olympia agrees and decides that they need to focus on the dangerous product and predatory marketing aspect of it.
She has this sort of wild idea to introduce Violet Reed as a de facto plaintiff through her mother's testimony.
Yeah, because she, who's also in this meeting, is concerned that the jury will wonder why Tucker is missing.
Yeah.
And that's the solution that Olympia offers up. And we can see that there's a barely concealed disgust and contempt from Madeline at this apparent callous cynicism of using the grieving parent to win a case.
But also I think Madeline's just generally now negatively disposed towards Olympia.
However, Olympia's mood is a little bit dampened when Elijah takes a message from Senior and leaves to go and he's been summoned.
Yes. Olympia talks more about Lydia and Shay has bought in to this idea, and we think to some extent Shay is maybe the opposite to Madeline. She's now more favourably disposed towards Olympia given what she's had to deal with in the sort of beatdown that she's received over the last few weeks. Yeah,
so they've decided that Lydia will represent her daughter and will win the hearts of the jury. And Madeline listens to this plan of emotional manipulation, and it looks like she's getting tired of it all.
Yeah, she looks like she's on the way out.
And then jokes, not jokes, that she's happy to speak to her as she is the dead child whisperer.
Yeah. She has to break an awkward silence after that by saying it was a joke.
So she goes to make this call And Billy updates Olympia by telling her that they have a meeting with the cops. Where was it? From Connecticut, I think.
PD,
who, broke up this illegal underage party 3 years earlier. And Olympia is very positive. She thinks that they only need one piece of evidence that Slamm'd were behind or connected to these parties. However, she gets some bad news.
Yes, Elijah comes back from his very brief meeting with Senior to report that he's being pulled from the case as too many resources have already been invested in it.
Madeline returns home that night to better news.
Yes, Bitsy is very excited about something.
I'd say nervous as well because she doesn't know how Madeline will react to... Okay, so what's happened?
Alfie has a crush on a girl at school. He goes to a magic class to spend time with her and has asked Bitsy to help him make a cake that he can present to her as his way of asking her to this dance as a friend.
Yeah, so I think that she's nervous because obviously this, perhaps taking on the role or an important... Alfie's asked her rather than Madeline because of what's going on.
That's never really expressed in the episode, but you understand that that's what Bitsy is concerned about. But Madeline has no concerns. She's pleased that Alfie trusts Bitsy. And in fact, I think this point she notes that Ellie also trusted her aunt.
Yeah, she calls her Itsy Bitsy. And as you say, yes, Ellie thought the world of her. But her delight is cut short when she gets a call from Olympia.
Yeah, she can't take the call because then Bitsy will hear her impersonating her and take offence. I liked Edwin's line when she asks him to distract her.
Yes, I think, what does he say? I'll just
ask her a question about anything.
In her office, Olympia hangs up before Madeline answers, but Julian comes in and things still appear to be on decent terms with them as they agree to cheesily sign their divorce papers together, but on Olympia's insistence only after the partner race has been won.
No, only after the Slamm'd case is finished. So.
Okay. This leads me to believe that Julian must win so that Olympia can then set up her partnership with Madeline in season 2.
Well, you can say that.
Or else Olympia wins, but because maybe what Madeline discovers decides to leave. That could be
I think we're premature for all this.
Right, okay. He has also found an apartment.
Well, she's asking him for information about the partner race and he twists the question and answers with the developments in his personal life, saying that he's found this apartment next to an ice cream shop that the kids will love.
Back at the Kingston mansion, the next morning, in the kitchen, Madeline is out of sorts as she packs her bag for work while Bitsy continues to bake, and Edwin tells her that Olympia has been texting her all morning, so she's in a bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah, Bitsy's not sure how Madeline can smile to Olympia's face and gets into a story about Cindy Shapiro stealing her pool noodle.
Yes, at a water aerobics class. Now, this is a question. Do we want to see Cindy Shapiro? Should it be one of these characters that's always referenced, a Mrs. Columbo type?
Yeah. I don't want to see her.
You don't want to see her?
I think it's quite happy that she's referenced. We know she's real.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it can only be a letdown if we actually see her.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Madeline understands the point that Bitsy's making here, but says that she's near the end now. She wants to keep her game face on and refuses Bitsy's offer of biscuits for the jury, which are American biscuits, we should say, the sort of breakfast ones.
Or you might have the gravy from KFC.
I'm not sure you would, but okay.
Okay. Well, you do get biscuits and gravy.
Yes, you do. But I don't think KFC do them here. Do they do them in America? Let's not get into this. It doesn't matter. Madeline thinks that would be considered a bribe anyway.
Of course, but what's the most important thing we see?
When Bitsy sets the tray of biscuits down, it covers up some of Madeline's papers, which she leaves behind when she heads to work.
In the courtroom, Lydia is on the stand and tells Madeline, every parent thinks their child is special, but Violet really was. Such as contradicts her point here.
Yeah.
And then blames Slamm'd for her death in response to Madeline's question after the judge sustained the defence's objection, and I think there's an didn't mean to do that, but obviously
shucks,
we did. Madeline makes a little joke about this, which the jury seemed to appreciate, before asking about the official cause of Violet's demise.
Poisoning because of their product.
Objection, Your Honor. With all due respect, her daughter had a rare heart condition. She's not exactly your average consumer.
Sustained. Stick within the appropriate bounds, Counselor.
Understood. Opposing counsel brought up Violet's arrhythmia, so I assume I can discuss that. I don't want to mess up again.
I appreciate that.
When was Violet diagnosed with a heart condition?
When she was 4.
And did she ever end up in the emergency room?
6 times, but the last time was in 2014.
And what changed in 2014?
She turned 8. And
she decided she wasn't going back to the hospital.
Quite the declaration.
That's who she was. Determined. After that, my little girl read every label, every ingredient. She took her health into her own hands.
I'd like to submit into evidence Violet's medical records. I don't have the records.
What? We just went over this morning.
Just building a little dramatic tension here. Believe you me, haven't heard a room this quiet since I accused my ex-husband of sleeping with a hooker on our anniversary. And then he said, which one?
There was a visual cue there that we didn't really get in the clip.
What happened at the end?
So as Madeline was launching into that brief anecdote, Bitsy comes in with the papers trying to help and is mortally wounded by the terrible impersonation.
My question is this, and I think we agreed last week, we were both sort of right about Madeline's taking on the character of Bitsy.
Sure, okay.
Well, I'll explain why, and I think I can prove my point. I don't see Bitsy making that okay, so that happened to Bitsy.
Yes, and she told Madeline, obviously.
Yes, but Bitsy as a person would not crack jokes like that about it. I don't think she would talk about her husband and hookers.
No, I think there's definitely more to the Madeline Matlock character than just Bitsy.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Bitsy's there, Madeline continued to the end. She saw her and continued to the end of the bit.
A furious Olympia hands Madeline what must be a copy of these documents, and Olympia herself turns to look at what distracted her just as Bitsy leaves, so I don't think she saw anyone.
Maybe not.
Meanwhile, we're at the document archive.
Sarah has a gift for Mrs. Belvin.
Why is she trying to get on in her good books?
Because she wants to know about the office that Olympia used to have that's being allocated.
What was her gift?
Binder clips.
Okay.
There's bad news, though, for Sarah.
What's that?
The office has been allocated to Simone Delgado.
Whoa. Belvin is not happy.
No, she's been squeezed.
Strong-armed, I think she says, yes. She is a stickler for the rules. Policy is policy, and this is a point where I went, yeah, she is definitely the redditor, the leaker. Anyway, when pressed, she reveals that it was on whose orders?
Julian's.
As he thinks his team needs more space. Obviously, he's preparing to win the partnership race. Yeah.
In the elevator, Madeline profusely apologises to Olympia. Again, it's this TV thing where they've been together for the last hour and she's only now apologising. Anyway, Olympia wants to know whether something is going on.
But she assures her there's nothing, it won't happen again. She can count on her always.
I feel like there's something about Olympia's, the way she's dealing with Madeline is different this week. Right from that hug at the start of this episode, she's not talking to her in the same way.
And I think that hug was just to show Madeline's changing attitude, not necessarily Olympia's.
Okay.
Anyway, Billy does have some good news as he meets up with her in her office. Olympia, that is.
Yes, the details now of the DJ from the Slamm'd party.
This perks her up, and she instructs him and Sarah to track him down while she preps the predatory marketing attack.
Which we now see her delivering in court to the marketing president of Slamm'd,
who insists that they don't market to minors or boomers, while Olympia is surprised to see Senior enter and take a seat at the back of the gallery, the viewing area.
This will prove relevant later on.
She then produces some ads for the drink, which shows only young people, but this is easily defended as being aspirational, and the witness points out that she doesn't look like one of the models from a J. Crew advert, but she still wears their brand.
Olympia appreciates this point, but gets the woman to accept that they use subliminal advertising and to define it.
Yeah, now, I have a problem with this. Subliminal advertising is what some people believe it to be, i.e., you insert, images or there's these things.
Oh, I was thinking of Columbo.
Yes.
Robert
and
Koch was doing it.
that has been proven to be absolute BS. You can't do that. All this is doing is, this is just traditional marketing.
Why did I join the Navy then?
all this is like traditional marketing. That's the whole point, that over time you become it's brand awareness. It's not subliminal in that sense. Subliminal just sounds more underhand, I think.
Sure. Well, that's not what they define it as here. Anyway, they define it here as something that is supposed to slip past your regular perception and embed itself in your subconscious.
But it doesn't really. It's right in your face. It's an advert. It's brand awareness.
Yes, but what she's saying is, you want to be like these people. You don't know that is why you like this product, but you're seeing this associated with it. So it's not.
Personally, I wouldn't call that brand subliminal advertising.
This is what they're calling it here.
Anyway, yeah. She accepts, however, that most of their promo events are on college campuses where only a quarter of the population is of legal drinking age, 21.
She doesn't say only a quarter. She says there's still a quarter. So there's plenty of people over 21 for it to be a legitimate thing for them to do.
Olympia accepts this and then corrects herself after referring to the very strong drink initially as a drug and making the point that 21 and 22-year-olds would have little experience with alcohol. I think I would call that out as nonsense if I was the defence. Most people don't wait until they're 21 to start drinking.
No. But I think that would be difficult for her to stand up in court and say, oh yeah, no, they've all been drinking illegally since they were 16.
I don't think that would be difficult. I think there'll be studies out there showing this.
Maybe.
Anyway.
We move on to the character of the tiger. Or as everybody else says, tiger.
Tiger, yes. So what's the slogan of the brand, first of all?
Oh, it's the 5 times is something.
5 times the alcohol, 10 times the fun. And I refer back to what I've said. Certainly in this country, and I'm sure in the States as well, there's no way that would pass marketing standards. You're promoting 5 times the alcohol. No.
Wouldn't be allowed.
No. But the marketer responds by insisting that they assumed the drink would be used responsibly when old enough.
Sure.
Of course.
Olympia draws parallels between the tiger character and Joe Camel,
who was discontinued because the FTC thought it targeted minors. Olympia seems to have made her point, but I think the defence has got something, a counter that works very well.
First of all, Olympia says that Joe Camel and the Slamm'd tiger could be friends, which goes down quite well with the jury. Before, I think, is it Clara, the name of the woman on the other side? She starts to respond, pointing out that the Charmin Bear is a lovable character, but he appears in a product that's not just for children.
The marketer then answers Clara's question about predatory tactics by claiming that the only thing predatory is this litigation, which she gets in before the objection is sustained. So she's using the same sort of slightly dubious tactic that Olympia did.
We see Senior leave at this point.
And also we get a grin from Juror 32.
He turns out to be much less relevant than we thought he was going to be.
Things are no better for Madeline at home. She returns to hear some Ed Sheeran dirge playing while Bitsy teaches Alfie to dance.
Highly popular track, one of the most downloaded Spotify played tracks of recent years.
I'm absolutely sure, and I'm sure Fox News and the News of the World, etc., and Rupert Murdoch publications and all that sort of stuff are also very popular. I'm not sure
what the connection between Ed Sheeran and right-wing media is.
The connection is that because they're popular doesn't mean that they are good. Anyhow.
Madeline's quite sheepish coming through the door, knowing that she has obviously upset her sister earlier in the day.
Yes, but before that, she watches for a moment. I think she's got maybe a melancholic smile on her face before the pair, her and her sister, notice each other. And Alfie then mentions that he's taking a girl to the dance as a friend. So he's obviously doesn't know or doesn't appreciate that Bitsy would have told Madeline this.
Yeah. We should probably also mention the fact that Bitsy was teaching him to dance.
I said that.
Did you actually say it? I'm not sure we got it out.
You were too quick to jump on me for calling Ed Sheeran's music a dirge.
Yeah.
I did.
Did you mention the story about the bathing suit in the creek?
No.
So basically Alfie doesn't think he's going to have to dance because he'll just do magic. Mm-hmm. And she says, well, you should always be prepared because one time I went out without a bathing suit and ended up at the creek. So we assume she went skinny dipping.
Maybe if he's lucky he'll make something disappear.
Okay. Madeline allows Alfie to play this off as no big deal and leave before getting what she deserves from her sister.
Yes, she thought they had made a breakthrough and had her respect, but she feels now like she is the butt of a joke and doesn't want to hear her excuses, but tells her she'll stay until after the dance for Alfie's sake, but will then leave her to her own life, or hers as it appears.
Yeah. Through in the war room, Edwin has both good and bad news, but mostly good.
Oh, what's the bad news?
The editor hasn't directly responded to the message that they sent.
Better than that, however.
They did click the phishing link that they put in the message. Does Reddit allow you to send phishing links in their direct messages?
I don't know.
Anyway, the IP from this shows that the Redditor still works at Jacobson Moor.
Oh.
Madeline immediately has a suspect.
Well, Edwin, firstly, he's already on top of, he knows what you want to do, and he produces the 63 people who were working there 14 years earlier and still are today.
Madeline's theory is it could be Shay, who she knows to have a big problem with lies.
She thinks that maybe she can draw her out with some subliminal advertising of her own.
Columbo had the same idea.
Yes. We're at the U3 office.
Mrs. Belvin is also at the U3 office.
Yeah, Madeline interrupts the furtive pair of Sarah and Belvin, who talks about being discreet, and we'll find out what's going on with with this new office. And as Sarah admits, she's like a dog with a bone.
Madeline hopes this is good news for Barry Manilow.
Yes, and is pleased to hear that he again has firm bowel movements.
Always good.
Well, it's better than the alternative.
Especially if you're the one picking it up. Sarah says after Mrs. Belvin leaves that she's helping get to the bottom of an injustice. Again, building on Madeline's thinking. Or your thinking, I suppose, in this case.
Yes, before heading with Billy to speak to the DJ.
Why won't you use your depraved sexual connection? Sorry, romantic connection that I am totally rooting for to find out what Julian is hiding.
Again, I'm not going to spy on Simone.
Again, you're the only one who can. It's not like I can stick my tongue down her throat. Even though I would. That's how far I would go to protect Olympia.
Dear God, please let me unsee that image. Focus on the DJ.
Think about it this way. Who are you more loyal to, Simone or Olympia?
Hey, yo! I'm DJ Flex Master. Welcome to Chris. I'm just kidding. Come on in. Hey.
So you have no idea who hired you for the party?
Wait, lucky days. I found the DM, but the account's been deleted, so there's no username anymore. Yeah. Venmo came in a few hours before the gig.
Username VP123, no photo.
And cash came in, no problem. They even sent some hella cool swag. Told me to give it out.
Do you have any left?
Probably. Man, I don't throw anything out because, landfills. Hell yeah! Jackpot! You guys want some Slamm'd or a pop socket? A visor? You can never have too many visors, right?
I believe you believe that. Wait, there's a label. It's too faded to see the return address.
Yeah, but there's a barcode. Maybe we can scan it.
The box is untraceable.
Before we get to Grandmaster Flasher, DJ
Flexmaster.
Flymaster.
I thought that would be quite a good DJ name for yourself.
Think so? Yeah. Flexmaster. Okay.
Yeah, you go with
if I was you, I'd have went for worse. But I'll accept that one. Thank you, Ian. That's from now on. I'm DJ Flexmaster. Yeah, no worries.
But you also need to do the air horn sound when we come on air.
But let's take a step back. My main note here was, yeah, right, Billy pretending that Sarah and Simone getting it on is an image that needs unseeing. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, it's repulsive. It makes me want to be sick, the thought of those two.
Yeah, my hot girlfriend and my hot office colleague. Oh, yeah. Imagine that would be terrible.
I have definitely never fantasized about that before, especially knowing that one of them is gay and is definitely, as she hinted at there, would definitely be into it.
Yep.
Yeah, I would definitely not be trying to encourage that relationship.
No.
I need to wash that from my mind. I'm such a bad boy.
For bleaching my ears.
Yeah. Right, Billy. You're trying far too hard.
Protests too much.
Did you like the DJ Flymaster?
I thought he was a happening young dude.
He was about 40, wasn't he? 45?
He was about my age, probably.
Yeah, if you come in a visor and that sort of gear, I would punch you in the face. Again, I'd never do that again. He's a type of guy that you think, oh, he's quite funny for about 3 minutes, and then half an hour later you're strangling him because he's an irritant.
I used to have a visor, but my first wife binned it when I wasn't paying attention.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons why it's your first wife.
Oh, maybe. Yes.
Not because you binned it, because you were constantly wearing visors in the house.
I had one visor.
Yeah.
In the meeting room, we heard the end of the clip there, Sarah dumping the box on the table and saying that the label is not traceable and they haven't found VP123, which is a very basic sort of username.
Yeah, I think
I'm almost surprised it was available.
Hide yourself, yeah. However, from the box, they produce some beta cans with different designs on them, which Billy says proves they must have came directly from Slamm'd. They were never on the market.
However, it's not evidence because the other side can simply argue they fell off the back of a truck, so to speak. It's all circumstantial.
She mentions the different shady ways that corporations cover things up, which
shady,
which Madeline obviously thinks supports her theory of her being the Redditor.
Yes, because creative accounting makes her so crazy, she says.
And we see Olympia note this, well, maybe note that Madeline has noted what she said to her. She knows there's something up.
Definitely. Shay comes out with information here that triggers Madeline.
What's that?
She talks about how you need to look at what has changed because there's always a study with any change at this sort of level of corporation.
Yes.
So the warning label and the tiger are the only things that have changed. There is a study for the warning label. There's not a study for the tiger, so it must have been hidden. It's a missing document.
Yes, missing from Discovery.
Yes.
With this new information, Madeline is in the elevator and calls Edwin to tell him to go through the Wilbrexa file looking for every label and dose change study. And she's sure this is the missing document.
This is one of the things that I quite like about this show. I think it does it well, is when you've got the parallels between Case of the Week and Madeline's investigation. If we didn't, if we weren't completely off the Madeline bus in terms of her investigation being worthwhile, it would be a lot more interesting. But I do like the way that the two things run in parallel.
Yeah. Olympia arrives at her office and is not delighted to find Senior waiting for her. And even though he tells her she looked good in court, he has some devastating news.
Yes, and probably the reason he was in court as well is that he's been speaking with Slamm'd's lawyers behind her back.
And what is the outcome?
They've made a settlement offer that not only has he signed off on and Slamm'd signed off on, but the judge has also signed off on, despite Olympia's doubts that he would.
They are only waiting in her signature, and this offer has a timer of 24 hours.
And it has a value that basically covers what Jacobs and Moore have spent and leaves nothing for the plaintiffs.
Now, Olympia, I think maybe naively suggests that she can still win this, and he points out that being partner is not just about winning, it's about what's doing best for the firm, and he warns her not to make him say, or else, kid.
Yeah, and I'm not sure she listens here, because I think she still thinks the better settlement she can get, the bigger win. But I don't think that's what he's telling her here, and I think she misses his point.
No, he's telling her, sign the document.
Yeah, and it's not because we break even and that's fine, it's because there's other reasons why it's better for the firm to take this offer.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll come back to that.
She heads back to the meeting room to find Sarah and Billy packing away the casework as they have heard about Senior's decision. However, she slightly desperately rallies them by insisting they've still got about 22 hours before she has to sign this document. And what does she do?
She's off to prepare for Kennedy's testimony while the others are left to search for a connection between Slamm'd and the parties.
Yeah, I think she really snaps at Billy when he doubts that they've got, there's any point to this.
Yeah.
Or has no leads.
In the U3 office, on the way, or through the door, we heard, I think, at the top of the show, Sarah noticing Billy getting his backside slapped by Simone. This is all that Simone does in this episode.
However, as we heard, there was apparently an ulterior motive.
Yes, he's flipped.
Yes, he snuck a little look at some paperwork and has found a new AI client of Julian's.
Opterian.
Whose retainer is worth more than Olympia billed the entire year.
That probably explains why Olympia's not going to win the partner.
Yeah, and they both agree it's best not to tell her. I think she's in a very fragile state at the moment. And this, I thought, was Billy maybe a bit patronising here. He says, oh yeah, I agree, we shouldn't tell her. This shows a real emotional intelligence on your part.
Yeah, no, I think he's straight up there. I think he genuinely thinks that because she's normally a bit like a bull in a china shop.
But yes, but saying that, is it not patronising? Good work, doll. Little pat on the head.
I don't think it's like that. I think she understands what he means.
They're close enough that he can say things like that. Yeah.
And she credits her mentor for being a good guide in that side of things.
And at this point, Billy asks about the username of the person who paid the DJ. And when Sarah tells him it was VP123, he is sure he's got good news.
He is. And in court, Olympia delivers that good news as evidence.
Yeah, she and Clara are standing in an empty courtroom.
Yeah, it's a hearing in front of the judge. Yeah.
Yep. And hands him paperwork which shows that Slamm'd paid Vista Point money to throw these parties and that the DJ was paid by Vista Point.
Yes, and that this was hidden in discovery, which Clara rejects, saying it was clearly an innocent mistake.
Olympia strenuously insists that concealing evidence is an affront to their justice system. So, again, this is showing that perhaps Olympia is not as unethical as what Madeline might think.
No.
And demands that he find in their favour.
Yeah, summary judgment. Yeah.
Through summary judgment, yeah.
Out in the corridor moments later, she explains to Madeline that they didn't get this summary judgment, but extra discovery is being sent over, and the judge has prevented Slamm'd from contesting anything related to these parties being introduced in court. But Madeline is not impressed.
No, she's disappointed not only with the judge's decision, but also by the fact that Olympia thinks that it was smart lawyering what Clara did, and that they would do the same in that situation.
Madeline doesn't think they would and is visibly angry, but Olympia takes, and I don't know if it's offence or umbrage at this, but she certainly doesn't want to be around her anymore.
Well, she gets defensive and then aggressive. She goes on the offence. So she says, well, I wasn't talking about hiding documents. I was talking about how she handled this revelation in front of the judge, and then tells her to go home. Like a naughty schoolgirl. I don't need your negativity. That's quite the call by Olympia.
And it's also not really in character for Olympia.
No. So she became very close. She's her right-hand woman, her confidant. And that's
But you wonder if she's noticing Madeline's change in approach and change in tone, and maybe she's reacting to it.
And I think, in fairness, Olympia is just under a tremendous amount. There's an awful lot riding on this, and she's probably not acting as reasonably as she normally would.
Yeah, but Madeline's also not... She's let the mask slip here completely, gives a very loaded oh man and storms off.
Yeah, she shakes her head, can't believe what she's heard, and she walks away. Olympia then turns and asks Rhonda, the security guard, if she can ask her a question.
Back at Jacobson Moor, we see Olympia arriving back, saying Madeline's not with her due to a family issue, which is concerning to Sarah because they have had a delivery.
Of what?
It's like a room full of boxes. This is the kind of thing that make you never want to be a lawyer.
Yeah, it's the old trick of, okay, we've got to give them some evidence, some discovery. We'll give them everything and make it impossible for them to sift through within the required time. I've seen this a number of times before in movies and TV shows.
14 hours, they have to find something.
However, Olympia tells them to roll up their sleeves. They're going to make what is it, the good old, is it a Harvard try? Is that what they call it?
Well, they call it something.
Yeah, college try?
College try, I think. Right, yeah.
Anyway.
Back at the Kingston mansion, Madeline returns to the group as they similarly are searching through an endless pile of documents and notes that she accidentally hit Olympia with a pool noodle.
Yeah, she alludes to this problem before Edwin shepherds Alfie out so that the two sisters can speak alone, and Madeline kneels down in front of her to open up.
I know you felt like a joke. I made you feel like a joke. That wasn't my intention. The truth is, I chose to be you because you're more likable than I am, Bitsy. It's true. You always have been. I thought it was because you had a different upbringing. Mom was a drunk when I was a kid. I had to put on my hard shell. But you didn't have it easier. You just took it easier. You didn't let her turn you into a grouchy old turtle.
Don't you call my big sister a turtle. You're not, you know. You're just a big old squish when you let yourself feel things.
I remember taking Ellie to elementary school in 1987 and met Joyce Webster. I was 38 years old. That's how old I was when I made my last real friend. Before Olympia. I mean, I had work friends. I had mom friends. I'm just really gonna miss her.
Yes, you are. And that's okay. You know what else I think? I think you fell in love with being a lawyer all over again. And you don't have to give that up.
Another fantastically strong performance from Kathy Bates here.
The two of them are really good. These two should be getting Emmys together.
I was going to say, Emmy nominations, I think, and it's great to see the extra. Again, compared to the original Matlock, it didn't have these extra layers, this depth, this emotional side of things. It was very, very lightweight, which is fine. Also, I think we've not really acknowledged it before, but just the incidental score there. I think throughout the entire show, it really does highlight and make these type of scenes. So good work there.
It's nicely. It's not jarring.
Not overbearing. Yeah.
You feel like I felt like, and I've noted here that Madeline seems to have a recurring issue with underestimating people. There's been a few times now where she thought she's a step ahead and she's not been. Sometimes she is, but there's other times that she's not quite judged things correctly, and I wonder if that's going to bite her in the tail.
Yeah.
Back at Jacobson Moor, Shay is staying late because she feels responsible, because if she hadn't been banging Olympia's husband, they wouldn't be in this mess.
Yes, it's not only Madeline and Bitsy who are building bridges. She admits that she does feel responsible, because if it wasn't for that act, Olympia would not have felt the need to hire the Glenroys, the dodgy Glenroys.
Who were terrible.
Who were absolutely terrible, yeah. She apologises and reveals that she made the first move.
Julian must have thought all his Christmases had come at once.
Yes.
Anyway, Olympia says that Julian is a grown-ass man, but she does understand Shay's point and wants to move on without any kind of forgiveness or anything.
I think when we were first introduced to Shay, she was very much like the sort of lie detector machine, maybe a bit one-dimensional, a bit cold.
Yep.
And we're seeing this, we've seen now moments of vulnerability and the acceptance that she is wrong, she's made a mistake. So her character has been smoothed out, which is very nice to see, because I really quite fancy her.
Okay. So we see some time pass as both these two document hunts go on in parallel up at the Kingston mansion and at Jacobson Moor, and at almost the same time, Shay finds something out of all those boxes. Madeline and Edwin come to the conclusion that they too have found the vital piece of evidence.
Mm-hmm. So can I just go back to Shay and Olympia there?
No.
It's good to see them, I think, becoming friends.
Are they becoming friends?
Well, they've agreed to move on. Yeah, I think they have. They're not going to become best pals overnight, but Olympia has given her the nod, as if to say, okay, I'm putting this behind, I'm not going to hold any grudges any longer. Okay. And Shay, I think, accepts that. So that is, because them working together would be
You want Shay in season 2, is what you're saying?
Yes, definitely.
We get more detail, first of all, on the Welbrexa issue.
Yeah, Madeline has found a study that showed a previous label that instructed users not to crush the tablets.
Yes, it would lead to rapid release and absorption, and it was taken not as a warning but a how-to guide, and a study showing that is what must have been hidden.
So a study showing that they shouldn't do that?
A study showing that that's how it would be interpreted, and that's caused them to change it, but then bury the study.
Okay.
But how would that have the markets changed 10 years earlier?
Yeah, I've got a problem here. If they found this study and then
did what it said,
changed it, it's not their fault. Putting warnings in, don't do this, that is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
Addicts will try all sorts, smoke all sorts as well. So them doing that, and then when they find out that it's dangerous, removing it, I don't think they can be blamed. This instruction on how to get high isn't their fault.
This made me think, so this feeling that opioids could have been removed from the market 10 years earlier, that is the Redditors' interpretation. That's not a fact.
No.
Worth bearing that in mind.
In any case, an emotional Edwin thinks they've figured it out, and Madeline tells him that the next step is for her to contact the Redditor, write a message, and she knows exactly what to say. And so we see her sit at her laptop and write the following. Do you have a note here? Because I think it's quite important.
Nope.
You don't? Do you want me to?
On you go.
Okay, so what she says is, first, I want to know that your actions mattered. Your post on that Reddit board changed my life. And I know why you did it. Why you screamed into the void. You posted because you knew a right from wrong, and you stand for what's right. The truth. The rules. The hard shell of justice. But that's not why you're going to come out of hiding. You'll come out of hiding because of what's underneath, the squishy stuff. You'll come out of hiding because you care. And at this point, she's interrupted.
Alfie's ready for his dance.
Yeah, Bitsy proudly introduces the most stylish boy in the house.
Yeah, well, we didn't mention earlier, but he asked her for help with his wardrobe.
Yeah, so he's grinning from ear to ear. He's got a shirt and a blazer. He looks very smart. And as we see, Alfie and his date have pictures with the girl Molly and Bitsy and Madeline and all that sort of stuff. And it's very nice. It's very warm. It's good to see him being a kid and enjoying the things that he should be doing rather than spy pens and hacking.
To be fair, he does look like a kid who's been dressed by his great aunt.
Yeah. Yeah, so we see this as he leaves for the dance and Madeline continues her message. You'll come out of hiding for the children who lost their parents, for the parents who can't smile without them, who can't laugh, who are finding it hard to do anything. You can't know what they're going through, but you care. And that's why you'll come forward.
A couple of points on this. Number one, Kathy Bates did it better.
Really?
Number two, what?
I've only read it once. Did Kathy Bates only read it once? Was it a live reading by Kathy Bates?
I believe so.
I don't think she did.
One take Bates, that's what she's called in the business. I don't understand. What do they mean by come forward? What are they asking the editor to do? Come forward to who? About what?
To explain who the person was.
Surely if they were going to do that, they'd have done it at the start.
Yeah, but that's the whole point.
The implication is that they don't know.
No, I think they do know, but she's not going to reveal it herself. Madeline has to work it out. That's what they said.
They've named the person and then two innocent people. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe that's right.
Anyway, later on, Madeline sits with Bitsy and thanks her before showing her trust is fully restored by asking what?
Well, first of all, Bitsy says she's going home with a full heart. And then Madeline noticed the connection between Bitsy and Alfie. And this addresses a point that came up earlier in the season. And she says, if anything ever happens to her and Edwin, would Bitsy agree to become Alfie's guardian? She's quite overwhelmed and emotional and agrees.
That's like when someone gives you a puppy or a mobile phone as a gift and then says, yeah, and you've got a contract for that as well. Well, it's not quite the...
It's one of these things that I'm giving you something about this. You'll never need to cash this in because he's very unlikely to be needing any guardians.
Yeah, I mean, if he's 12, maybe 10 years tops?
Years, 10 at the most, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this brings tears to Bitsy's eyes and she gratefully accepts the responsibility with a hug.
In court, the marketing president has been dragged back to the stand as Olympia goes through the timeline of the development of the tiger.
I think I might have skimmed over this. So, she immediately accuses them of carrying out market research off the books at parties that were not turned over in Discovery, as we know. And after glancing at Clara, the marketing manager has to accept this and admits that the parties did contain high schoolers. Olympia then produces video evidence of a focus group for an energy drink aimed at 14-year-olds.
Well, first of all, there is an admission or a statement by this woman that Olympia is able to agree with because of how specifically it's worded that there was no Slamm'd focus group before the tiger change.
Yes.
But they don't know what Olympia's got, but perhaps they suspect, because I think from that statement you know that she knows what has happened.
Yeah, so we see this, the focus group for the energy drink, and these 14-year-olds enthusiastically voting for the tiger mascot that then ended up on the can of Slamm'd.
Yes, against the one that was on the beta version. So it's definitely for Slamm'd. There's no two ways about it. They've been targeting young teenagers.
And this obviously does the trick as we next find her being congratulated on a win by Senior.
40 million. Hell of a settlement.
See? I always do what's best for the firm.
I know you do, even if it means breaking the rules. But then again, you knew that. Madeline.
I turned to congratulate her. I just wanted to apologize. You were right. I've been off, and I don't know. It's the pressure or, well, it might be my age. I hate to admit it, but things just hurt more than they used to. Makes me cranky.
That must be hard. And believe you me, I get it. This case made me cranky too. So we're good?
We're great.
Oh, it's Julian, I should.
I'll leave you to it.
Hello? So we're really toasting our divorce?
No, we're toasting the fact that it was amicable and that it lasted 12 years, which beats all 4 of my father's marriages combined. And we're toasting our family, which continues.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I've just been holding in a lot. Can finally let it out. Even goodbyes are hard.
This isn't a goodbye. This is an... I'll see you tomorrow, and can you remind Court to brush his teeth?
You're right. Shall we?
So for a second there, did you think they weren't going to sign? Both looked a little bit reluctant.
We've been through this so much. I wonder if maybe that was the setup. I didn't ever think they wouldn't sign it now.
Yeah, they do sign, and Julian congratulates her on the Slamm'd victory. But then she sort of jests a little bit with him. Tells him to wipe his smug grin off his face.
Yeah, she's going to win this partner race. And Julian noticed that Senior was glowing talking about the Slamm'd settlement, but is very surprised with what Olympia knows.
Yeah, she knows about this big AI client, as she has eyes and ears everywhere. But they agree that the best person should win.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, is
No.
it? The best political mover and shaker normally wins, especially if your dad's the boss.
Yeah. In a scene borrowed from a 80s spy movie, is that fair to say?
She had a newspaper with the eye holes cut out. Yeah, Madeline is in Central Park on the phone with Edwin and watching the meeting point where they have asked the Redditor to go to.
Yes, and we get a sort of false lead as a woman who looks a bit like Shay from behind walks past.
But she turns and we see it's just some random meeting her boyfriend. However, when she walks away, we see the actual Redditor sitting anxiously on the bench behind them.
Senior.
Who is it?
It's Mrs. Belvin.
Yes! I could have embarrassed myself heavily.
We then get a flashback through all the Barry Manilow references in the...
Well, yeah. So the score here is Barry Manilow's Can't Smile Without You. That's playing. And we have, this familiar flashback explanation. What do we learn here?
Well, we see Madeline saying it's not Shay, and then going through all the Barry Manilow references in her message to the Redditor.
And Belvin being a stickler for the rules, but because of the cat and all that type of stuff, a compassionate person. And we find out that Read 'em and Weep is the name of one of Barry Manilow's songs. And obviously she knows that she's a massive fan.
Yes.
We also note that she dropped many of the lyrics to Can't Smile Without You into the message that I read out earlier.
Subliminal messaging, which Edwin notes.
Yeah, the one that I read out in my Emmy nomination performance here, just as good as Kathy Bates would have done it.
For your consideration.
For your consideration, yeah. As she watches her colleague with pleasure and satisfaction, she tells Edwin that you can't beat, as you say, subliminal advertising. I quite liked because, the intricate drip feeding of the clues to Belvin throughout that, we didn't pick up on initially, but now it all makes
I think if you were a fan of Barry Manilow, you might have picked up immediately when you had the dog called that, and then you had the Redditor name at the very start.
Oh yeah, you would have known that, yeah. But that's why they didn't do it until this episode.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Okay, what's going to happen now? What are they wanting her to do?
They want her to reveal the person who's been hiding this.
Yeah, she must know more, they think.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how you would use that. Say she says it was Olympia or it was Julian. What does Madeline then do? That's still not proof.
She still can't go to the New York Times with that, can she?
Maybe she's going to confront them.
Yeah.
No, I suppose she's got this proof.
They've got the change of the messaging and they suspect this is what's happened, but I'm not sure the paper's going to go for that yet.
Well, I'm sure we'll... What, 2 episodes? 3 episodes?
3 to go, yeah.
3 to go. I'm sure we'll find out.
During the episode, they made the point that Julian's new client's retainer will be more than Olympia bills in a year. So does she really think that 40 million is moving the needle here?
It's more than she has billed so far.
Yeah, but...
That 40 million might...
I think we get the impression is that if it's coming down to numbers, it's not making a difference.
But she might not know what the retainer is at this point.
And she also doesn't seem to have an appetite for the kind of work. Like for all the fact that, I'll do what's best for the firm and all this. She doesn't want to do the corporate stuff that makes the big money.
Yeah, it's definitely been set up, I think, for Matlock and...
Lawrence. Yeah.
Season 2.
I did enjoy Billy coming through for Sarah and Olympia.
Yeah.
That was good.
It was.
Bit of redemption for him after the way he treated Sarah.
Julian and Olympia been back on terms was nice. Shay.
Yeah, we're kind of back to where we were before they got together, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure with the 3 episodes or whatever it is to go, there'll be all sorts of spats.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt something will happen. Before we get to the trivia, the main case in this episode was the conclusion of the class action against the makers of Slamm'd, and although a settlement proposal that would have allowed Jacobson Moore was on to break even was on the table, Olympia and the team were able to secure evidence that showed the mascot had been workshopped with young children, leading to a new settlement offer of $40 million, which was then accepted.
Production information. 13th of March 2025 was the original air date, and we've got a new first time and only time director in Gina Lamar. However, she has been the co-executive producer on 16 of the episodes.
Tight team.
She has also directed Dark Angel, Jane the Virgin, CSI Miami, Dynasty and Charmed. She's also the producer, or was the producer of Jane the Virgin, Dark Angel, X-Files, Emily Owens, MD, King and Maxwell, Broke and Good Sam, amongst others. A returning writer, Nikki Renna, third of 3 for her, and she was also the executive producer of 15 episodes. Likewise, Michelle Leibel, writer, 3 of 3, and co-executive producer on 15 episodes of Matlock.
Is that because only 15 have been added to IMDb?
Maybe.
So it could be that these could all go up?
Could be, yes, quite possibly.
Before someone in 2033 is correcting us on this.
Yeah, just check yourself, see what's that. Okay, the cast, fairly small one this week. We have Anne Hugh playing the marketer. I think her name is Caroline Dean. She was born in Maryland, and you may have seen her in Law & Order, Last Man Standing, NCIS, Man with a Plan, or Raven's Home. What about DJ Flexmaster? Interested in him?
Yes, obviously.
Adam J. Now, it's not Jeff Fries, it's Jeffrey? I don't know. He's born in Kansas, and he is a company member of the Actors Gang, where Tim Robbins is the artistic director. And you may have seen him in Mr. Mayor, Lethal Weapon, The Brink, or Casual. And finally, we have the judge, David Gautreaux. He has appeared in SWAT, I think he's a character actor here, The Blacklist, The Goldbergs, The Night Shift, Break, Damages, Franklin and Bosch, Boston Legal, West Wing, Young and the Restless, Melrose Place, The Fall Guy, Airwolf, Crazy Like a Fox, Hardcastle and McCormick, T.J. Hooker, and Star Trek The Motion Picture.
That was a while ago.
He was originally cast in the role of Lieutenant Zah, the science officer aboard the USS Enterprise for the series Star Trek Phase 2, prior to this project being pulled and reworked into the first movie.
Fair enough.
Have you heard of Phase 2?
Yeah, I think, did we not talk about it when we did Star Trek The Motion Picture?
Can't remember.
You've not mentioned Frank Scozzari. Is that deliberate?
Who's that?
He's uncredited painter in Park, but if you look at his IMDb, he's been in thousands of things and uncredited in all of them, so he must be someone who does something else, I guess.
Yeah.
Who just shows up in the background of scenes.
Yeah, he's just one of these people who's a professional extra.
But he's not also credited for anything else. It's not like he's a producer who shows up in his own movies or anything like that. So I'm interested to know more about Frank Scozzari.
Well, you know what to do, ask him.
No, I want you to do. You're the trivia guy.
I'm not doing that.
Okay, well, in terms of trivia, I was just going to thank Kat Coiro and Jerry Snyder-Urman again for their help with the information they gave us last week.
What have we got next week?
Next week, Olympia tries to right an injustice and solve a riddle in the Johnson case.
Well, until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.